Okay, 3, 2, 1. You do intro.
Hey guys, Ryan here, and today we are here back on Running with the Pack. I know it's been a little bit since I got one of these done for a race review episode, but today we're actually joined by a friend of mine, and someone you guys definitely should know if you guys are at all remotely familiar with the channel, Keystone. So we're going to be talking, though, about the
Hey
Talladega
guys!
race. Oh, and there he is. I knew he'd introduce himself at some point here. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about this Talladega race, and I think probably race of the year so far.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely agree with you on that one. I mean, Daytona was definitely a close second, but I just think this Talladega race has been best race of the year.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of
I
looking at
mean,
it from start to finish, the action, especially with the low amount of wrecks, but still quite a bit of action going on up at the front, especially with the number of
yeah,
wrecks
I mean,
that
what were
didn't
they?
happen.
Not many wrecks happened at all. But I mean, what were they changing the? They at least had like 6 lead changes in one lap between Logano and Denny Hamlin early on.
Well, I was also referring to the times where a wreck should have happened and definitely didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, when Chase Elliott got spun out, he should have at least taken a car or two with him. Like, that's what you kind of expected, but he only took Austin Dillon, and that could have been a lot bigger of a wreck right there.
And who'd Blaney
So
take with
let's
him when
talk
he
about
lost it?
nobody.
Oh yeah, he didn't even take himself out.
So let's talk about the beginning of the race.
Okay.
First off, we get green flag. And what happens after we get green flag?
We run quite a bit of the race. Green flag, barring the competition caution, which I don't necessarily know if we necessarily need it, but that's been something I've kind of been a little. I mean, I understand why they throw it just in case there is a tire issue, but we haven't seen any at any of the tracks so far this year where the tires fail.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only person we see doing that's Stenhouse, but that's for another topic.
Well, I don't even remember him having a tire fail shortly in the race. Rust at Darlington, yes. Other misjudgments, yes. Bad luck at Bristol, yes. But I don't think we've seen anybody have tire issues, at the very least not in that first run of the race.
No, definitely not. I think the tires, I think it was, last week?
Yeah, last week at Homestead.
Were really touchy. They were really touchy there. And Martinsville, they weren't much better.
But it wasn't like they were
I don't understand.
failing in the short run that they gave before the comp caution.
No, but on a side topic, I don't really understand why they're changing all the tire compounds and everything all of a sudden. Like, I don't see the race getting better because of tire compounds. I see the race getting better because of the packages.
Yeah, and that's again something like my big thing about competition cautions, especially, and I think it was highlighted at Indianapolis back in 2018, is that under the comp cautions there shouldn't be strategy that's allowed to be played around there, like coming for 4 tires before the comp caution, then doing fuel only at the comp caution, or just staying out at the first comp caution like we saw Denny Hamlin do to be relevant in the 2018 Brickyard race.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. They really need to do some work with the competition cautions if they're going to keep them around.
I feel like if a competition caution is deemed mandatory, whether it's for fuel, whether it's for tire wear management and whatnot, I think it should just be a mandatory 4-tire pit stop. Everybody comes in and leaves in the same spots that they were in, assuming they don't take like 9 minutes on the pit stop. And just doing that
Agreed.
one pit stop as non-live.
So let's talk about just all the green flag running today. That was pretty impressive. There should have been at least 6 or 7 cautions.
That didn't happen. I think there were 6 or 7 that
Exactly.
could have happened that didn't. Some of which happened
Especially
at the same time.
Yeah, like Ricky Stenhouse, Matt D, and Logano all saving a car within the same point of time right there.
within the same straightaway, or
Mm-hmm.
front stretch. I don't know. Do you count the front stretch at Talladega as a straightaway or a corner?
I don't really know. I consider it straightaway as a trial. Well, there you go. There's my opinion.
Okay, fair enough.
So let's talk rain, 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 rain. Every single race they have rain.
And that even goes back to, I mean, remember the Daytona 500 run on Monday. Las Vegas, rain impacted. California had rain threatening. Phoenix, we managed to dodge the rain by going into the Arizona desert. Then we come back to Darlington. The first race I don't think had any rain impacting it. The very first race back. But then you had rain impacting the Wednesday night race, the Thursday night Charlotte race, the Charlotte 600. Bristol, I think, was impacted by rain if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it seems like most, if not all, the races this year have had rain on the radar. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't say it's going to be a downpour at Phoenix. Just the way this year has been going with the weather, it's been crazy.
Well, also a reminder that in 2014, I believe it was, Dale Earnhardt Jr., I think, got his final career win at Phoenix under a rain delay.
Yeah, let's not talk about that, okay?
Okay. So, but yeah, so the rain delays, I think they get really annoying. And to be honest, I think the biggest thing is it kills a lot of new fans because I guarantee not all new fans are staying to watch the Jeff Gordon documentary, the Jeff Gordon versus Earnhardt documentary, or the 1992 documentaries during the rain delay.
I mean, that's very true right there. So, I think the rain has really been killing a lot of the new fans for the racing, but also
Or as you could say, wash them away.
We'll get into that later on. Only you with those jokes.
Did you expect any less?
Like later on, I think we should get into like the politics stuff. But let's finish the race recap here.
Yeah, let's talk about the race for right now.
Stage 1. Competition caution, rain, green flag to the end.
No, it was yellow flag at the end. Remember, the rain came with 3 laps to go in the stage, so the race went yellow flag at the end.
But Tyler Reddick winning a stage. That kid showed a lot of progress today.
I think he's shown a lot of progress every race we've been to.
He should have at least had a top 5 finish if it wasn't a fuel run today. Prove me wrong.
No, I think he probably should have been the top rookie of the race, but he wasn't the top rookie of the race.
John Hunter Nemechek was.
Yep, John Hunter Nemechek.
John
top
Hunter
8
Nemechek
finish
won the
in the wall.
And he almost won it. Let's admit it.
He almost won it, but I don't think he had quite enough time to get that one.
No, I don't think so either, but Eric Almirola. 10 car finishes the line backwards and finishes third.
Well, I guess it's a good thing that his teammate didn't push the rear end of his car off of the car. Just imagine if he lost it because his rear end was pushed in that far from the bump drafting. Because that's just about how close it was.
They were aggressive.
I think they actually said that the like slip strip or whatever, like the slip tape that they put on the back bumper of the cars
was getting worn off.
Was actually completely worn off of Stenhouse's car from Kyle Busch, who was his main bump drafting partner all day long.
And that wasn't even quarter way through the race. I mean, seriously though.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was expecting this to be a Penske picnic pretty much, where they just come out and head out to lunch and go and win this thing. And while they did win it, they definitely weren't out to lunch all day long.
No, they were getting appetizers today.
And I say they had constant challenges from Kyle Busch, Stenhouse working together. Bubba got up there and battled with them for the race lead. Custer took the lead at one point during this thing.
I think they're Custer had the lead, Bubba had the lead, Reddix had the lead, Hamlin, Logano, because I can't even name all of them.
53 lead changes, I believe. Should have been 54.
That was almost a record. Yeah, we know you're. Speaking of Stenhouse, I'm actually pushing Stenhouse right now.
Yeah, so let's talk about Stenhouse for a minute. I think that was a defining day.
Very impressive today.
Because I think, especially with
I think he
everything that people have said about him, I think this was a big chance for him to redeem himself, especially after his Darlington slip that everybody probably remembers him for at this point.
I think he just had one heck of a run today. And honestly, like if I'm talking about different drivers, I just think Stenhouse has so much talent underneath. He just doesn't have the ride. He never has the ride.
I think it's a mix of not having the ride and also putting himself in unfortunate spots. Like, he kind of put himself in that spot with Roush a couple of times, actually. Like when he got benched the first time for wrecking too many cars. And then this time when he went and spun out MTJ and then got released from his contract that week. I mean, he kind of did some of that to himself, especially with the Stenhouse Demolition Derby at Daytona, which I feel like ignited a lot of or reignited a lot of the people calling him Wreckhouse and whatnot and blaming him for all the wrecks.
Yeah, Wreckhouse Jr. Recky.
Recky Spinhouse.
Some people that I know call Ricky Stenhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, Recky Spinhouse.
That stuff just is not needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I feel like, in particular, when it comes to me, it's like a lot of my favorite drivers are ones that a lot of people call names. You've got Cryle, you've got Spinhouse, and then McDowell's just nowhere to be seen most weeks. Was hoping he was going to do something today. And he actually didn't do too bad.
Let's talk about the rookie class.
Okay, so Tyler Reddick and John Hunter Nemechek. Are there any other rookies?
Christopher Bell was doing good early on, lost the draft, got damaged, didn't see him the rest of the day.
I thought I also saw him kind of run out of fuel late in this race as well. He was one of the first guys to kind of drop out of line and just fall back as well.
He was already lapped down at that point, though.
Yeah, but I mean, that definitely didn't help any chance he had, because if he'd stayed up in the mix, could have been the free pass, gotten a shot in overtime.
Oh, most definitely.
So, who else are there for rookies? I honestly can't remember.
Some guy at Cole Custer that was running top 5 for most of the day. I mean,
he was the best Haas car, I would say.
That's a good job by him.
I'd probably say he was the best Haas car today. Which honestly
him
is...
And,
oh, sorry. I'll let you talk.
Go ahead, no, you.
Which I would say is very rare that the best Haas car isn't that 4 car and Rodney Childers and Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with you there. As far as the race went, I feel like Ford was strong, but they're not as strong as they were last year.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Penske Fords really... I feel like the Penske Fords really showed that it isn't just the Ford motors that are the best. They showed that the Penske preparation is also top-notch at these plate tracks. I mean, if it wasn't obvious already.
I feel like Toyota's struggling a little bit. I really do.
Well, I think the big thing Toyota struggles with at these types of tracks is going to be not having the numbers. I mean, think about it. I mean, you had 3 Joe Gibbs cars start the race up front. But the thing is, they were almost immediately outnumbered, and that was almost as big as their numbers ever could get, because they only had, 3 other Toyotas in the entire field, because you had Timmy Hill, Christopher Bell, and Eric Jones, who weren't top 3 starter positions. And and Suarez.
I mean, Suarez was in the race.
He was
I
there.
saw him in top 10 for about 30 seconds.
But yeah, so but with all those guys, it's like they don't have the numbers that Ford and Chevy do. And I've said
No,
that
and
for a
honestly, I
while that
do feel like their
that's,
speed is
to be honest,
struggling a little bit
I've
still.
well, yeah, and I think that's going to be where Pocono next week is going to be the big kind of the big challenge point. If Toyota struggled at Pocono, then I'd say red flag, what's wrong? But I think at least for right now, especially based on Talladega, don't panic because I think it's been pretty obvious ever since Toyota actually ironically did it to themselves. I feel like they've kind of killed any shot they have of winning plate races that aren't just crapshoots like the Daytona 500 tends to be. Because in 2016, when they won that Daytona 500, that's really what started off the Penske drivers, the Haas cars, the Roush cars all working together to get Ford an advantage, or all the Chevy drivers working together and running for a Chevy victory.
Yeah, and I can agree with you on that. I think it's like 14 Chevys and 16 Fords.
Other way around, actually, it's 16 Chevys and 14 Fords. Chevy has the slight numbers advantage because they have a lot of the back markers. Because
Very
you've
true.
got the premium cars that are all Chevys. You've got the Spire car that's Chevy. You've got Brendan Gaughan, who's a Chevy, at the back, kind of towards the back usually. The part-timers, BJ McLeod Motorsports, they run Chevy, I believe. Tommy Baldwin Racing, Chevy.
Yeah, I really can't see Toyota having the numbers at any plate track.
Well, yeah, that's just because there aren't enough Toyota teams, and that's something I think I've kind of not said it, but I feel like I've said it before, is that I feel like Toyota needs to pick up a second, somewhat large team. They don't just need a Levine Family Racing, essentially a fifth Gibbs car. I think they need to try and talk to, say, a Chip Ganassi Racing, or a lower totem pole Ford or Chevy team, and try and get them to switch to Toyota so they have some extra numbers. To be honest, I might look at
I
front
think we can
row
admit,
almost as a potential team to get bought into, but that's probably going to be a topic for a much different day.
yeah, it's topic for a much different day. So let's get on topic of our race winner and the final laps. So, cars are running out of fuel. Nobody has enough fuel to make it to the end. I don't like these new stages. I don't like the way they have them split up.
I said this when they first announced it. I liked it when it was essentially you'd have half the race at the end that's more traditional for your traditional racing fans that don't like the stages at all. Even though I like the stages, but I like the kind of mix the old with the new, having the shorter stages at the beginning for the first half of the race, and then the second half of the race you could have your traditional old school racing.
Yeah, I mean, I could second you with you there. I just don't like it. It's just, I don't know. It
It feels like it
makes it
takes
so they don't
the
pit, blah blah
race a lot
blah.
more into the car and driver, and kind of takes away some of the emphasis for the pit crew. At least that's my opinion on it. Is I like it when those three are fairly evenly balanced between driver skill, car ability, and pit crew. And of course,
Yeah, I
with this
can't
current
disagree
aero
there, to be
package,
honest.
I feel like it puts the car slightly ahead of the driver, but I feel like those two are fairly close. But
Mm-hmm.
with the stages, you very rarely have green flag pit stops where a solid pit stop gains you time. Race off pit roads definitely still matter, but I feel like pit crew has become slightly less valuable.
And I'm gonna tell you, I don't disagree with you.
So about
Like, I
those
think it's
final
the first
laps,
time in a while
though.
that we've agreed to something.
Well, let's get on to something I
Let's
don't know if
see.
we're gonna disagree on or not. I'm kind of interested to see this one. The lack of a yellow at the end of the race. Thoughts?
I don't know. There was only 3 cars. They weren't really in the wall or anything. I just think they let them race it out, and it was a good idea.
Yeah, and after we had our discussion before the video, I actually thought back to other instances where we've seen wrecks and they haven't thrown the yellow. So I guess at the very least they're being consistent with the way they've thrown the way they haven't thrown the yellow before for stuff like this. Like for example,
Yeah, they're being really consistent with it.
like for example when Stenhouse's car died at the end of last year's race at this track. Actually, ironically, last year's Geico 500. Even though he was a literal sitting duck at the start finish line, just waiting for someone to wreck into him. Like literally, if that Larson wreck had happened coming to the start finish line, or if today's race had played out, Stenhouse would have been sitting about 100 feet past, just waiting to get nailed. And that's kind of where I feel like some of the thoughts, like with this wreck, I feel like, okay, everybody's out the way. No one's going to be still going 200 miles an hour when they get to him. Last year with the Geico 500, there was not a chance that they weren't still going to be going 210 miles an hour going by Stenhouse. And again, if you have let's just say this exact wreck happens on the last lap of last year's race, Stenhouse probably gets injured and might miss some races. Does anybody want
definitely.
that?
No, and I don't think anybody wants to see anybody get hurt, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, sure, some people in the heat of the moment, when someone turns another guy, might wish them to get hurt in a wreck or whatever. First off, that's not really an acceptable behavior, but, I mean, heat of the moment is...
It's being human.
Yeah, I mean, heat of the moment is really the easiest way to sum that up. But none of us truly want to see people hurt in these wrecks. I mean, look at Newman in the 500. Every NASCAR fan was praying for him.
Heck, even people who aren't NASCAR fans are praying for him.
Yep.
I say we talk about the last lap here.
Okay, last lap.
So, coming to the white flag, Harvick. Looks like he's got the thing locked up. Loses his drafting help. Mr. Blaney came out of nowhere. He was there the whole time, but he wasn't there because of Stenhouse bobbling on the fuel.
Well, did Stenhouse bobble on the fuel, or was he lifting to try and save a little bit? Because clearly at the start-finish line, it didn't look like he was out of fuel.
Yeah, but I remember they have that fuel reserve.
Oh, yeah, true. He may have flipped the switch.
Yeah, because sometimes fuel doesn't go right into the tank because they take their fuel out of the left side or the right side of the tank. My bad.
Yeah.
And when they take the fuel out of the right side of their tank, it's going to be a little harder for them to get it to work.
Yep.
Especially on a bank track.
Yeah, especially on a heavily banked track. I think, second highest banks in NASCAR. I think Bristol is slightly higher banked, but of course it's a short track, so much different racing.
I thought Stenhouse had it right there, honestly.
I did too. I mean, you could almost hear me from all the way in Maine all the way to Pennsylvania where you are. You could have heard me probably.
I think I did hear you.
Yeah, I thought Stenhouse had it from...
Hey, Stenhouse! Oh, Stenhouse.
Yeah, and it's like, nope, Blaney by
My
the
mom and I
slimmest
thought
of
he had it
margins. And ironically, the exact same margin he beat Newman to the line by last year when he won the fall Talladega race.
Luck or all skill?
I think a fair bit of both. I think it was a lot of skill to stay in the mix the entire day, but coming to the line, that definitely took some luck.
Yeah, but the fact being is he saved enough fuel, he played it smart.
Yeah, he kept himself in position, which is, I think, the biggest driver skill factor to plate racing, is keeping yourself in position all day long. And being there to capitalize.
Can I just say,
when others
what
fail.
happened to Truex?
Who?
Truex Jr. wasn't a factor for the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Who? Was he there? Did he actually run that race? Are we sure they didn't put Brandon
I
Jones
think
in
that pretty
that
much
car?
summarizes the race.
Well,
I think Brandon Jones would have been more up front, to be honest with you.
I don't know about that one. I think he probably would have put it in the wall more spectacularly than Truex did.
Exactly. There would have been a big one if Brandon Jones was in the race.
Or Cindric.
I think this is the first Talladega race I've never seen. Would have actually the big one was on the last 100 feet.
Yeah, the big one happened at the start-finish line. The guys involved in the big one were getting third place.
How did he? I still don't understand how he finished third
But
place,
just the fact that
going
someone...
across the line backwards.
Like, when was the last time you saw a driver involved in the big one at Talladega and still get third?
Well, I mean, we saw Ryan Newman get top 10.
Yeah. Was he in... Oh,
I mean,
yeah, he was involved in the big one at Talladega. But yeah, so...
And then we saw Ryan Newman at Daytona go flipping.
Yeah, and still got a top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Well...
So who knows? It might be a...
I think there's one more driver that definitely needs to be talked about, though, as we get ready to close out this one.
And I think that's the driver of the number 43.
Yep. Without a doubt, definitely needs to be talked about because, man, he has been the storyline for, to be honest, the last 3-4 weeks.
Late Sunday night, they found a noose, a handmade noose, hanging over his car in the NASCAR Cup Series garage. Personally, I think it was foul play, but that's up to you guys to decide. NASCAR is getting the FBI involved now. And what about that entrance today? All the NASCAR drivers and their teams came out following Bubba Wallace's car and Bubba Wallace in his car, and they pushed him to the front of the field, over at the start-finish line at the end of pit road. And they all stood behind him during the national anthem, the prayer, all the invocations.
Yep. And to be honest...
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll say this. It definitely made me proud to be a NASCAR fan after waking up this morning and seeing that news, which, to be honest, had me pretty steamed going into work this morning.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the Confederate flag and everything, I don't have any personal opinion on it. To me, it's just a flag. I'm going to get a lot of flack for that in my comment section, but for me, it's just a flag. A flag doesn't show your heritage. Who you are shows your heritage. If you are going to try to kill somebody over a flag being removed, I think you might need to get mentally examined. But that's my personal opinion.
Now, the big thing I see is this is also promoting inclusion, which is something that NASCAR desperately needs, especially among younger fans, because I think that's no secret right now is that NASCAR has one of the oldest and quickest aging fan bases of all popular sports, except for, I think, golf, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think today's race really showed that NASCAR is a family. No matter what happens, they stay a family.
You may have a sibling squabble here and there, like Chase Elliott versus Kyle Busch or Chase Elliott versus Logano, but
or Chase Elliott versus Denningham.
Yeah, but in the end, they all at the end of the day, they're a family. I mean, they travel around 40 weeks a year, sometimes more, depending on pandemics. But they travel for 40 weeks a year, roughly, and then come home and 38 races, but they're actually on the road for more because you've got
I know, that's what I'm getting.
Remember off weeks and whatnot. And then they all come home and most of them live in the same town as well. Or at least a lot of them are based around Charlotte. Now, not all of them live directly in Charlotte.
Did you see Ryan Blaney and I don't know if a lot of people saw this, but Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace touched your door panels as Blaney was pulling over to the start-finish stand.
Yep.
They didn't really show that too much on TV, but I was watching a battle camera on the Fox app, and I just tell you, Bubba Wallace probably has the biggest mouth in NASCAR, but I think he's also going to have one of the bigger fan bases by the time this is over with.
I think he's one of the bigger.
With him,
Yeah, I think he's one of the bigger personalities, biggest mouth. I think you're talking to him.
with him, I think NASCAR is going to reach a new generation.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, these two are probably two of the guys that are going to really bring this sport into the next generation. Sure, Chase Elliott might be the most successful of the young drivers, but Bubba and Blaney, I feel like, are two of the more personable and relatable for young fans, even younger than you and I.
And we'll give William Byron a Tyler Reddick. William Byron, a simulator driver, moved up through the ranks of NASCAR and made it into the Cup Series.
And also, I mean,
how many people could say
that also brings in kind of the relatable gamers as well. I mean, just kind of looking at guys that are relatable to kids these days. I mean, not to sound like an old guy, but kids these days are more into playing video games than going out and trying to run a go-kart at, say, Richmond Karting Speedway up the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the ones that kind of does both. Like, my first race will be on July 31st, Stafford Speedway.
I'll be there.
Off, everybody. And, really, Ryan, there's not much else we could say other than congratulations to Ryan Blaney. Good job to Eric Almirola. And I'm sorry, that cracks me up every time I think about that. Is Eric Almirola sliding backwards across the start-finish line and still finishing third. And then...
Yeah, and then, of course,
I don't know.
Bubba Wallace. Because, yeah, I think that's...
He used to be a man
also,
of few words.
This, I was talking with my dad about this before the race. Isn't this Bubba's home track as well? Mobile, Alabama resident?
Yeah.
So, hometown crowd. And to see it, at least the fan reception here on this Monday afternoon, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point there was like 9.8 million people on the that beginning of the race, like the invocation.
Yep.
It was a huge crowd of people. I mean, I saw that on Facebook, and I saw like almost 2.3 million people just watching it there.
Yeah, and then I'm sure there were plenty of people.
If that tells you anything.
Yeah, and then if you think about how many more people were probably watching it on the actual TV. I mean, I know personally, now I don't know if they actually got to see much of it. I know my buddy Greg, he was at work during the start of the race, but I think he went home and watched it. Tim, I don't know if he was still at work or not, but I know a lot of us were talking about the race while we were at work this morning. But we had Tim, Eric. I know he hasn't watched recently just because he isn't able to. Without cable, he hasn't had the ability to watch them live very much. As well as a few other people actually where I work that all were talking about the race beforehand today.
Yeah, even non-NASCAR fans were talking about the invocation and what this could mean for the sport.
And the thing found yesterday evening.
Yeah, the news. That's... I don't even know where to go say that.
Unacceptable.
All I can say to the person that did it is that is unacceptable, and you should forfeit your rights to any NASCAR events.
Now,
if they find you, I hope they give you the correct justice that's needed.
Yeah, now I'm not one to be like that there isn't an ability to reform, but it's going to take, I mean, kind of like with Larson, it's not going to be a short or an immediate Band-Aid, you're back in.
Yeah, it's not going to be an overnight thing.
Well, I think that's just about everything.
I think we should end it off there.
Yeah, well, thank you guys all for
Would you like
watching.
to send us out?
Yeah, thank you guys all for watching this episode of Running with the Pack here, recapping Talladega. Feel free to let me know what you guys thought of having the voice in my head here, Keystone up over on the Xbox, and what you guys thought of this whole style. Also, let me know what you guys thought of the race. I think for me, it was probably race of the year so far. Of course, still a lot of racing to go, another Talladega race to go. Also, I'll see you guys in the next video, live stream, or whatever you guys decide to do for the rest of your night. Have a great night, everybody. Goodbye!